What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Gotta Get Back, the Samurai Jack in review. You already know. Welcome to Project Potter, guys. My name is Kyle, your host. This is episode 16, season 2, episode 3 of Samurai Jack review. If you haven't seen the show before, guys, it's a recap. It's such a favorite scene, favorite character. It is a score out of 10, and it is also some Jack facts sometimes. So, that being said, guys, we're going to kick it off into the recap here. I mentioned last week that I was really disappointed in one of my least favorite episodes of the series last week with the Jack Tales. Well, this one does bounce back like I was expecting to. We begin the shot in forest, as Jack often does. So when he's in between these crazy battles and fighting for his life, he does seem to have some like quality time down. Some quality time down. That doesn't make sense. Some quality time downtime. There we go. And so Jack is there. There's like a deer. He's sitting by a fire. And all of a sudden, there's like these marauders or these slavers that come by and they take Jack off. They catch Jack off guard, which I thought was kind of weird because you'd think Jack would not be off guard. But nonetheless, they kind of put Jack in chains really quickly here. There's like a slave master that's whipping like this chariot, and they're kind of pulling the horse along. All of the weapons are kind of stored in the back, and they show Jack's sword, so they didn't get rid of Jack's sword. They do kind of throw it in the pile. They don't know, obviously it's a magic sword. They don't care about it. And so Jack is thrown into a cell. He's thrown into like a dark room with like all these light beams on it that looks really, really cool. And Jack is like trying to say something like, shut up. And everyone gets on these light beams, and then it's like a slow elevator that goes down, and they go down into like these cells, and then the tops are shut off. So it's pitch black and it's just a light. And then it's really cool because there's a like green, there's all these different like symbols next to each cell, and there's like really, really bright like colors associated with each one. So like at the top, it's like red. In front of Jack, it's green, and it like shows this great green hue that goes in there, and it's really, really gorgeous. It's incredible what they did with the drawings in this episode, because it really like makes you feel like you're in the space. I couldn't believe how much like a 2D environment like had me so invested. And so yeah, the green is pouring through. There's like really cool black like silhouettes of like other characters in these cells, and there's a guy with like a full gas mask, and he's talking about how like no one escapes. And then eventually like day passes through, and it's like red all around Jack, but he wakes up and he hears like rumblings of like a fight up there, and he just sees like shadows going by and people getting dragged in the sound. There's crowds, and it's really, really cool. And I've been saying all season 2, guys, the sound has been very impressive throughout all 3 episodes. Even last week with the poor episode, the way they've used sound has been much better in season 2 than it was in season 1. And again, I don't want to say that season 1 was bad, because it wasn't. It was a great season of television. But they clearly have learned some things for season 2. So Jack goes up the platform to the top there, and he's like a little nervous. Then he gets determined like he always does. And we find out he is in the Dome of Doom, which is a sick name. So hats off to Gendy for thinking of that, or whoever thought of that. But basically, it's like your classic gladiator pit. So, the slaves need to fight for their lives, basically. One dude's getting like carried off, and then there's this really cool shot of Jack looking around the wall, and all of the weapons that were collected are all on the wall, including Jack's sword, which zooms in on it. And Jack's like, okay, I got to get that sword. But basically, they're like, okay, they call him Two Sandals, and they're like, Two Sandals is going to fight against like all the champions we have. So there's like this huge like werewolf guy, kind of like big monkey werewolf sort of guy in armor, and I think his name is like Mordo or something. And it's like WWE. He's screaming. He's like, listen, brother. He's like, I'm gonna put you in the ground, and I'm gonna hurt your family and do this. And literally, he's got like the announcer's ring, or the microphone, like Bruce Buffer over here, and there's spit flying out of his mouth, and Jack is like, look, I'm not intimidated by your shouting. He's like, you can fight me, but he's like, just so you know, like a real warrior fights with skill or whatever. And so this guy obviously is going crazy. He's trying to just grab Jack, and they're underestimating Jack, of course. He's like punching through the wall. He misses, but Jack is really nimble. We don't see Jack like jump good in this episode, which is weird because he didn't really like use that to his advantage. He's just kind of normal jumping. But Jack can't quite get to his sword yet, so he has to grab some weapons off the wall. So he's got like nunchucks to kind of start, and he's a little outmatched, but Jack is, his fighting skill is like unlike anything else we've seen. So Mordo, I don't know if that's his name, if not I'll edit this in, but he's starting to like lose to Jack, so they're like, oh no, he's going berserk now, and he basically like transforms and gets big. He goes like Super Saiyan basically. And then he starts going berserk and starts banging on the ground, and he's gone crazy, and he's like, okay, now I'm gonna take you down. So Jack starts sprinting to his sword, but Mordo's in the way. He starts swiping at him. He actually does. Jack is jumping out of the way, but he actually does get Jack on the face there. And so Jack's got like a nice like battle scar. There's like a trident that Jack picks up, and he kind of does some work with it, but smacks him around a little bit. Mordo goes down, and then that he actually ends up defeating him with a trident. So you think he had to get the sword, but he didn't. So it just shows how good Jack is. Then he's like, all right, well, we're going to call upon the champion. And they're like, the Aqualyzer. And that is this, oh man, I thought I had it right this time. That is this dude over here behind me, the Aqualyzer, and what a sick design, dude. So he's got a like fish tank. First of all, the way he comes up through the center console. There's like an elevator in the center, and he slowly rises up, and he's swimming with sharks around him. And I'm like, dude, what a badass entry. So yeah, he's got like a spiked arm, kind of over here that way. He's got like a spiked arm, and like I don't even know what that thing is. If it like electrifies people. And then he's got a spear on the other end, or a trident, and he's got like robot legs, and he just looks sick. And he's like, oh, don't worry, I've gone across the 7 seas and defeated like challengers that are better than him. And of course, we know he's underestimating Jack, and he's got a big spear, and he's swinging it around, and Jack still is trying to get to his sword, but he's got the shields, and so he's kind of deflecting everything. And then he goes up. He's got the 2 shields, and he's using them like razor blades almost. So he throws one shield and throws it so fast that it like cuts off a piece of the spear. The Aqualyzer, which is a sick name too, dude. Like not only does he have a badass entrance, he has a badass name. And then we find out that like he's got like claws on the end. It shoots like a harpoon gun basically. And Jack ends up losing the shirt because he's like, all right, dude, it's time to get serious now. He actually ends up like punching off one of the arms, which I thought was kind of weird, but he gets nunchucks again, and he goes over and he's like spinning them around, and then he gets them by the leg. And then it's really cool because like the Aqualyzer is down, and then he's going to like saw at Jack, and he just turns it, and he like turns it around and then uses it to cut off his own arm. And then he uses that saw blade, or that arm, when the Aqualyzer's on the ground with no legs and no arms, and he cuts right down the center of his helmet, dude. And it's dope. And then what is revealed is like this little tiny like guppy thing, and it's like, help me. So of course it's like this big brooding figure. This big brooding body is like actually just this little tiny creature that built a suit or whatever. And everyone's saying like, kill, 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 or they're saying doom or something. Like they're basically like, Jack needs to kill this creature, this helpless creature. It's like coughing, and it's like, you're supposed to feel bad for it. Obviously it's not meant for combat. But Jack is like, he struggles with it for a second. He's sweating, and he's like, no, he's like, I will not do this senseless violence anymore. And they're like, Jack, you must take him out, or you're insulting like the Dome of Doom. And he's like, no, is this what you do for entertainment? He's like, this needs to stop. And he's like, oh. He's like, okay, then if you're not going to do it, they like drag off Aqualyzer, and they're like, we're going to bring you the champion of champions. And it's this huge guy, and they use the triple frame to a great extent. Sumoto or something, I forget his name. This huge sumo wrestler guy, and the triple frame is used unlike anything we've seen so far in Samurai Jack, where he comes up in the middle, and then instead of the other 2 frames that are usually like different angles or zoom ins or replays, it's literally just the other 2 sides of his belly because he's so big. And he's like hovering over Jack, and they're like, oh, it's the sumo shot, and he like jumps so high in the air and then just lands right on Jack, and they're like, no one has ever survived this move. And then Jack somehow survives it, and they're like, oh no, it can't be, and his head pops out and he struggles to get his arm up, and then it's actually the back of his hair that like is rubbing against the skin, and they're like, oh, he's ticklish, and then it's like a funny little bit because that's like his big weakness, where Jack starts like rubbing his head up and down and tickling him, and then he takes his hairpin out and his hair's all flowing, and then he's like looking like a crazy person wiggling his hairpin at the guy, and he's basically like down. He like eventually is just like laughing so much from tickling that he's out. So that's a fun bit. But he's like, all right, if one champion can't take it out, then bring out all the champions. And then there's this really awesome selection of guys where it's like the first guy comes out and it's like a tortoise, but with like huge spikes on the back. There's like a vampire type creature. There's the claw guy, which is a huge guy with claws. There's like a reptile guy, which just like throws his tongue out. There's a robot man. I didn't write down the names, although they all have really good names. And then there's like a Saudi guy, like with 6 arms. And they're all coming out of Jack. And then the guy is literally like, let the carnage begin. And he's like drooling because they're just so bloodthirsty. And so Jack is still trying to get to his sword. And then he like makes a few moves, gets to the wall, he gets his sword, and it's like, it's business. Like, it's done. So the vampire bat like comes at Jack. He swings, dude knocks like all of his teeth, knocks him down. The claw guy comes at him. He actually tackles him, and he's going to like attack, but Jack has a quick recovery. And he like, using his sword, takes care of him pretty easily. The reptile dude like gets his tongue on him. He's pulling Jack in, and Jack can't stop it. But he turns around in midair and then like kicks that guy in the face. And the robot's throwing like ninja stars at him. And what does Jack do? But he just runs by them, like narrowly missing all of them, and he's like kind of dodging. And then the Arabian guy, I don't know. I hope that wasn't offensive. I'm not trying to be offensive. It's just my ignorance. He's like swinging the swords at him, and it's really cool because he's got all the different arms. So the turtle guy with the spikes on the back and the robot actually end up killing each other because they're like they have both fire missiles and the spikes at Jack, and Jack's right in the middle, and he just leans down, and then they both go into each other, similar to when he was getting the killer bees from season 1 to kill themselves. The claw guy, the vampire thing, like takes the claw guy up, and so they're like working together to fly around. The reptile guy like has an axe, but Jack eventually gets him to spit his tongue out, and he goes into the claw guy and then cuts his tongue. They all kind of blow up. It's a little confusing, but it's nicely done. He runs away, and then it's just the prince with the 6 like scimitars, and it's really cool because it's Jack, and he's really strong against this guy, and he's got like one sword is going against Jack's sword, but then Jack has to like dodge at the same time, and like the swords are coming from different angles, and then it's really cool. And then Jack just has eventually one super move where he goes up, and we see the screen cut to black, and it's like 6 swipes, and then the head falls off, and then all the arms, the 6 arms fall off there. It's just Jack in the middle of the arena, standing there, his hair's down, and everyone is just destroyed around him. The crowd is now cheering for him. They've been booing him the whole time. We get the horizontal shot, which is always cool on Jack's eyes, which we get a lot. And Jack is like, this ends now. He's like, free the slaves. And then the guy's like, we can't do that. And Jack jumps up there. He has a sword to his throat, and he's like, you will free the slaves right now. And he's like, from now on, you're no longer part of their entertainment. You are free. And Jack jumps down, and he's like, the robot guy who's whipping from before. Jack is like, bro, I said they were free. And he goes over and he just slices up the robot guy because he's got the sword now. So that's a little bit of revenge there. But Jack just slowly walks out of the white entrance there from the dome of doom, like he always does, like a badass, freeing people. And that is how the episode ends. Okay, guys, the magic sword for this one, it's Jack. Jack came back, man. The way he is able to like defeat everyone using not his sword, but using any weapons that are available to him, and then finally getting a sword at the end and just absolutely wrecking shop, shows just how good of a warrior he is, where he can take down people one-on-one using different weapons. But then when he literally has like a 6-on-1, once he gets his sword back, dude, he's got his mojo back, and he's like, oh, like, dude, you guys are no challenge for me. So Yeah, Jack was awesome in this one. I mean, and then the fact that he obviously doesn't kill Aqualyzer when he could have, and then the fact that he's like, hey, I need to free the slaves. He's always doing the right thing. And yeah, it's just another detour on his journey. He was just trying to get home, but he's done so much good for this world. And even though he keeps kind of getting thwarted with his chances to get home, we didn't see an attempted travel back in time attempt in this one, but we did see him help another people who are in trouble and free another civilization, so to speak. And yeah, this was just a good episode for Jack, really. Okay, guys, a portal in time. It has to be that first shot where Jack is in the cell and it's just his eyes. It's black and it's just his eyes, and then it cuts to black, and then it opens up and it's the green shot with the light coming down. Oh, it was so cool. I was like, wow, this looks awesome, dude. And like the fact that they didn't use the whole screen, they just used a little bit, it made you really feel like the black screen that they didn't use, it made it feel like emptiness. And it was really awesome. I just love what they did I really felt like the sense. It's funny because you look at the screen, it's a 2D screen, but you really do feel like they were brought in here. And then you felt like when they went down the elevator to the cells, and then you felt like the dome of doom was above them, and then you saw like the little windows that like gave you like just glimpses into what's going on up there. I thought that was all excellent. Like it was so good. It was beautiful shots. I couldn't believe what they did with the colors and the lighting, all that. And I was just really impressed with the whole thing, really. But that one first scene where Jack, it goes from black and then it shows Jack with the green light pouring in and he's just like looking down. I thought that specific scene blew me away. Okay, guys, for a score for this one, this is a big bounce back episode. This is so far my favorite one of season 2. I think it's one of the better episodes of the series, but I don't know if I would put it up there like at the tippy top. With that being said, for this one, I think I'm going to give it a 9-1 because I was really impressed with not only, like I said, the lighting blew me away. The sound was excellent. And the sound is so important when you only have, they nailed both of those factors. So not only did they have Jack in the cell, and it really felt like a cell, and it felt like, you know, there were people on both sides of him, and they did such a good job of not using the whole picture, but just using a fraction of the space. And then the sound effects of like, you could hear the battle going out there and their bodies dragging and screams and stuff. And it's like, they nailed that so much. And I'm so impressed with the sound for season 2. It's really like much better than I thought. And I mean, I'm watching with like surround sound speakers, so I'm sure that helps, but I didn't remember the sound in Samurai Jack being as good as it has been. So that was great. But yeah, just sound, score, visually, storyline, it was cool. It was a classic like gladiator fight, like battle. But just the fact that like we get to see Jack fight with all the different weapons and all the different creatures. And just like, man, the way Aqualyzer comes up through the middle was super cool with like a shark swimming around. And then like him just being this little guy and kind of being like a little guy in like a tough guy suit. And yeah, just Jack being able to free at the end and walk away. And it's just awesome. And I just really enjoyed the episode. And I think it's the best one of season 2 by far, easily. And then I think one of the better ones of the series so far. For sure. Okay, guys, so we have one Jack Fag this week, and this one is really cool. So this episode officially is called Jack and the Smackback, which I don't love. Why they didn't call it Jack and the Dome of Doom is beyond me, because that is a really cool name. Every time they said Dome of Doom, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. But yeah, they called it the Smackback. But the only trivia, the only Jack Fag for this week is that there was an official website listing for this episode, which included an alternative title, Chain Gang Jack. Bro, Chain Gang Jack? You're telling me that you didn't name this episode Chain Gang Jack? Well, you probably should have. But yeah, that's just a nice little Easter egg that is an alternate and a better title than what they went with. And yeah, just a really cool written episode from start to finish. And that's just like a little piece too that I really enjoyed. So that is our one and only Jack Fag for this week. Okay, guys, well, that's it. That's another episode. We are 16 down. We got 10 more to go in season 2. So still a little bit of ways to go, but this is a strong one. I was really glad because I was worried. But usually if you get a kind of a bummer, there's not many bad episodes of Samurai Jack, but if you get usually like a down episode or a quiet one, there's usually a bounce back the next week. So I'm really glad that we saw that come to fruition. And yeah, Jack was awesome. So badass in this episode. The weapons, all of the character designs were awesome. The lighting, the environment, the sound, really, really good. Great episode. Thanks for checking it out, guys. Thanks for checking out Gotta Get Back. Thanks for checking out Project Potter. I do appreciate your support. Like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell notification. I'm sure you've heard me say it a million times now, but that's just part of the outro. So yeah, thanks for checking it out, guys. And until next time, gotta get back.